God.
Yeah.
And just, you think about, you have this service, you're grieving your loved one, you think, and then to find out that they were literally just piled up like garbage.
Yeah.
That's just...
And they don't even have them, like, in caskets or anything. These are cardboard boxes.
Yeah.
It had one, I don't remember where it was.
That cat is fixing to do some damage. It's trying to jump on something.
They were doing kind of a stakeout to see what was going on. Mm-hmm. And so they're in the back of the funeral home, and they see the van pull up to, like, the big garage bay. But he just parked outside. And then he went inside, and they were kind of waiting. And then later he comes out and gets in a different van and goes home for the night. Comes back later. Well, they went and looked. He was gone all night until they opened the next day. That van he had parked outside was full of bodies.
Oh, God.
That he just left in his van overnight.
Oh, wow.
That's horrid. Oh, God.
Yeah.
All right, so...
Oh, well, this is another, like, local case about a child of horrific...
I think this one that I'm looking at's a local case, too.
Okay.
I could be wrong, though.
You go first if you want to.
No, go ahead.
Remember, I don't know if we talked about this on an episode, but I know we talked about it.
Okay.
This guy in Arkansas, up in North Arkansas, what? He says, oops, this story disappeared, so now I gotta wing it off memory.
Okay.
But...
Allegedly for entertainment purposes only.
So, this guy, it was another situation like what happened here locally this weekend where a child basically neglect turned into a child murdered.
Right.
And they found out that this guy, he had like sodomized this little boy, and that's what he died of, like ruptured bowels and stuff.
Oh my God.
I mean, object sodomized. I mean, so anyway, there's been some sort of he was in jail, and he's getting a new trial now for the little boy's murder.
Why?
Well, I would have. I would
okay.
tell you, but my article went away.
Okay.
So you talk about yours, and I'll try to find more information.
Okay, so I guess this isn't local. It's in Northport, New York. And the headline says, 6 cases of cancer found in high school's 2016 graduating class amid concerns over toxins. Here's the thing.
Like in the building? Toxins? Is that what they're...
Yeah.
Okay.
They had tested at a nearby middle or junior school. They had tested soil samples for some reason. I don't know what led to that, and there were toxins in the soil samples at this nearby school.
But
almost all of them have leukemia.
Yeah. You don't have 6 people out of a graduating class, no matter how
Young
big that class is,
that
are going to come down with the same form of cancer. That just doesn't happen.
Something's like,
bad wrong.
Are they saying that like it's maybe the power lines or?
I don't know, but
the only thing they mentioned was the soil samples at a nearby school.
You know, we've all heard of cancer clusters, and the industry, the energy industry says, oh well, that's not a real thing. Well, here's the thing. There's scientific basis. When you have high tension power lines, all right, your body operates on an electromagnetic field. Mm-hmm. That's what makes your blood pump. That's what makes your heart contract. That's what makes the neurons fire. That's what carries the signal. Everything is an electromagnetic thing. Mm-hmm. And when you have, even when your DNA replicates, it's all electricity. When you have high tension power lines and you're exposed to that field for long enough, it warps your DNA. And and a tumor only gets caused by warped DNA. Mm-hmm. That's the only thing that causes it. There's no other reason. Because it's got a bad replication, and then the thing that has programmed cell death, it's called a telomere, that is stripped away and it just goes crazy, right? So there's scientific fact there. And I don't know.
I would like to know how long it takes for this cancer, because, they tested at the local middle or junior high school, and these were high school graduates. Mm-hmm. And this one guy, he was diagnosed... So you think they could have
contracted it in middle school?
I don't think so, because he was diagnosed 2 months after he graduated.
Wow.
He died in a year.
Oh, my God.
Oh, wow.
But they said before his diagnosis, he was strong as an ox. So
it
it's
had
not,
to be a very
he
fast
wasn't
acting.
sickly before.
Yeah, it had to be a real fast-growing, fast-acting. That's terrible.
Or the treatment, because that treatment is poison.
Oh, well, yeah, I mean...
Yeah, but I'm saying before he was diagnosed, they said he was strong as an ox. He wasn't sick at all.
But once he started treatment, the whole idea of chemo is to
try to kill the cancer.
But I'm saying it had to be something that acted really fast. It couldn't be something from the junior high because he was in good health up until his diagnosis.
I got you. I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Okay, I found the information. I wish I didn't, but I did. Are you done with that one?
This isn't that guy that 6 counts of rape. Is it that guy?
I don't. Okay.
Who's trying to get clemency?
No.
Okay.
That's another
that's a whole
local
nother
case that.
That's like really local.
Ongoing, yeah. Okay, so this guy was from Bella Vista, and it happened almost 3 years ago. It was a 6-year-old.
Okay.
And he killed him through rape and abuse.
Jesus Christ.
The guy's name is Mauricio Alejandro Torres, and he was 45 years old. And he, they had gone camping, and I don't know, apparently abuse had obviously been ongoing. You don't go from...
Yeah.
And he took a stick and sodomized his son, and it did such internal that, like, the mom was like, something's wrong, and they got into children's, and I mean, he had perforated bowels. It was just there was no saving this child at this point.
So that motherfucker should have been on death row, in my opinion.
Well, he was.
Or even better, let him in Gin Pop.
People
They'll take care
tell
of
him
it.
what he did.
And tell him what he did.
But now just wait. So he was on death row, convicted of capital murder on November 15th, 2016. He was sentenced to death. Well, there's now been, because the Supreme Court has now the Supreme Court of Arkansas has now in a 4-3 decision that conviction needs to be overturned.
Why?
Because the incident that caused the baby's death, they were camping, remember? And they were over the state line in Missouri.
Jesus Christ.
I don't give a shit if they were on the moon.
You know what? Then have it done in federal court.
Yeah.
I don't care if they were on the moon. He sodomized this kid with a stick and killed him.
No shit. Jesus Christ.
I don't want to feed him for one day. I want to tear his throat out. I just
disgust me.
They you know what? If I was the prosecuting attorney, I would say, okay, fine, let's have a retrial in the circuit court. That covers Missouri and Arkansas. So let's do that, and then yo ass go to federal pokey and get fast tracked to the needle.
And then,
or that actually, if I was the prosecutor, that would be my suggestion. That would be my sentencing suggestion. Send them to Jim Pop and tell them what they did. Tell them what he did.
Don't waste time at death row.
Yeah,
it takes too long.
And let it take care of itself.
And like I think about, okay, so the family of this little boy has to go through all this again. They have to listen to all this horrific medical, because the autopsy and shit would be. So now 12 more citizens have to listen to that nightmare.
Okay.
And like if I heard something like that,
Yeah, you can't unhear
yeah,
that.
like I mean, hearing it on the news is bad enough, but if I were to see, because I've seen autopsy reports on shit like that.
On the news you get a whitewashed version.
Right.
When you're in trial, you get the unadulterated
you see
raw
the
version.
pictures and you see I would literally never unsee that, because there are things I saw when I was sitting as a court reporter that haunt me. And now these people, it was bad enough 12 people had to go through that to get the kid the justice. Well, now we've invalidated that on a fucking technicality. Nobody's saying he didn't do it. Nobody's saying. So now the process repeats, all this expense, all this money, all this time, all this trauma for this fucking monster.
And was this his real dad or stepdad or what?
His real dad.
If he can do that to his own child, he's not redeemable.
No,
If you can do that to any child.
That's why he's on death row.
I get that, but I mean,
Yeah.
he's broke.
Oh, yeah. Oh, now he's pled not guilty.
Yeah.
See, I don't understand how you can.
Change your plea at that point.
you can't go from a guilty plea to a non-guilty
new
plea.
trial.
Yeah, he gets to start all over
And
again.
if I was
new trial.
if I was the judge, I would say I'm not accepting that because you pled guilty right here. That means if you were guilty then,
The
you're
judge
guilty.
can't force him to.
I wouldn't accept a non-guilty plea. I'm telling you. Because if you're guilty then, you're still guilty
he died
now.
on your birthday.
What?
He died on your birthday. Said, the vote of one justice invalidated the will of 12 jurors in Benton County and forces the victim's family and survivors to go through this again. So it's a hard day for all of them, and it was hard to tell them that, and it's just really unfortunate, said the Benton County prosecuting attorney. Casey Alverson, who was a jury for the case, spoke about the decision to give him the death penalty. We all agreed on it.
I would have done that with a smile.
We all agreed on it. We walked out of that.
You can look up prisoners, right? We can figure out where he's at and go talk to somebody that's got like 3 life terms about, hey.
It said, we all agreed on it. It was a unanimous decision before we ever walked out of that room to get the bailiff and tell him we made a decision. We all sat there and prayed about it and made sure that it felt right on our hearts. We didn't have any...
Oh, yeah, I wouldn't have any... I wouldn't be fucked up about that at all.
Said, and I think she said... And I think that the fact that all of us unanimously were able to come to that...
Well, yeah, because you have to have a unanimous decision to convict and then also for the death penalty.
Because a lot of the people in that room were very, very religious people, but nobody had any hesitation. And she said, I sat in that room for 2 weeks listening to this testimony and this evidence, and those are 2 weeks she will never ever forget. Those pictures are forever ingrained in my mind. Watching the autopsy and all that stuff is forever ingrained in my mind. And the prosecutor said, even though this guy's getting a new trial, I'm determined to make sure that Isaiah Torres receives the justice he deserves.
Yeah, but will it not be out of his hands because it'll be in another state?
No, there is going to be justice. Either he gets the death penalty in Missouri, or he goes into Gen Pop.
Because if he's not on death row, he's not segregated anymore.
And they all know. It's funny how shit like that seems to get out to the general population.
Yeah.
So,
we've talked about this before. There's just, I don't know if it's because the world's smaller or what, through technology.
Yeah.
But there's just so much horrific stuff about children. It just seems like it piles on every day.
See, and I don't know that the instances are more as much as we hear it more.
And we hear the terrible details.
You think about it, even back in the 80s, something had to get really, really huge before you saw it on the news.
The hell, in the 90s, yeah.
There's things that happen, that...
Here in Arkansas that,
well, and even that, like it may have happened in Seattle. Well, you didn't hear about it past, Nevada.
Yeah.
I mean,
we had an awful thing happen. We're recording this on February the 15th, and so yesterday was Valentine's Day.
Oh, God.
And Ross and I know the sheriff of Lonoke County, and he's a dad, and I feel for him today because I know how things affect him when it's about children. And
I couldn't have that job because if I was him and I caught someone,
lost my shit.
I would have put a bullet in that dude's head.
I'd have been like, well, I went insane.
Yep.
The stress, PTSD got me. I don't know what to tell you.
They'd be like, dude, I don't know that you can claim PTSD or temporary insanity 8 times in a row.
It just
like, well, fucking shit just keeps happening, man. I don't know what to tell you.
And I know him well enough to know that he's got that in his heart like we do, he has to fight against that. But they went out on a call 7:34 last night, and one of those things where we've got an unresponsive child. It was a 3-year-old girl. And when they got there, supposedly they didn't know what happened to the baby.
That's a fucking lie.
Like, how's it, but when they got there, they start looking, and it's obvious that the baby's been abused, has been beaten, and she was unresponsive when they got there, but they went ahead and med-flighted her, but she was DOA. And 3 years old.
See, I'm a firm believer in laws, right? Most of them. I think weed laws are bullshit, but everything else I'm usually okay with.
I'm all about the law and order.
Yeah, because if we don't have it, our society devolves into chaos.
Nobody wins.
And then you don't have a civilization anymore.
Yeah.
Right? However, I think, and I'm not traditionally a fan of cruel and unusual punishment. We have a constitutional amendment that specifically forbids it. But that being said, I think that if you do shit like that to a child, prison